all.
Damon Pistulka, Exit Your Way. How are you?
I'm doing great. Kurt Anderson, B2B Tail.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks for checking, Damon. So, hey, Damon, happy Monday, my friend. We're a week past your birthday, so your birthday's behind us. We're done singing and all that, celebrating. How was your weekend? Did you have a nice weekend?
It was awesome.
It was awesome. Okay, same. It was just such a magical, wonderful, amazing weekend. And how to kick off on Monday, man. I don't know about you. Like, I was up at like 3:30 this morning for this show today. Whitney Houston's in the house. She says this is going to be fire. Whitney, I agree with you 110%. Nicole Donnelly coming to us live from the great state of Virginia. Nicole from DMG Digital. How are you today? Happy Monday.
I am doing pretty good. I was telling everyone I had a little bit of a fall this weekend. I went to the roller skating rink.
The roller skating? What happened?
It was for my niece's birthday party, and I tried to get real fancy, because I don't know if you've been to a roller skating rink lately, but people get into it, man. They're like grooving. Yeah. And I was like, I want to groove like they're grooving. And I tried, and I biffed it really hard. So I'm feeling it today, but it was worth it. It was worth it. Yeah. And I am so excited to be on the show with John Buglino. John is such a dear client and friend. And this topic today is just so I'm excited. I'm excited to get into it. I'm excited to get all into production planning, implementation, and talk all about it and reduce the stigma and the scare and the fear. And let's just let people know this is not as bad as it needs to be, right?
Let's do it. So, all right, let's introduce Mr.
Just one thing, though.
Lay it on us, Damon.
One thing. Nicole, did you do the chicken dance at the roller skating rink?
There was no chicken dance, but we did do a little electric slide.
All
right. Did you shoot the duck?
We did not shoot the duck.
I digress, because that's one of the funniest memories of my son.
You know what? Next, we're going to have an episode all on roller skating, Damon. We're going to schedule it. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, we're going to be at the roller skating rink, all virtually, and we'll be FaceTiming. But anyway, all right, let's dig in. So happy Monday. We have Mr. Hunt Relationships himself is on stage. Sales and marketing from Optessa, Mr. John Buglino. John, happy Monday. How are you, my friend?
Happy Monday, everybody. This is fantastic. I haven't stopped smiling in about a half hour.
Nice.
It's been fantastic.
I know. Cheeks hurt. So, hey, we've got Whitney here. She's coming to us from Houston. So, Whitney, happy Monday. Hey, man, this guy, how about this handsome devil? Dan Bigger's in the house. Yep. He says, I remember that view. So, you're out there, drop a note. Let us know you're out there. You definitely do yourself a favor. You want to connect with John Buglino. He is the hunter of relationships. You know what, Damon, we have a repeat offender with Mr. John Buglino. So I have a little different. So let's talk about hunt relationships before we get into hitting the easy button for software implementation. John, how is it that you earned the title of hunt relationships? Can you please share what is this hunt relationships?
Well, you guys pulled it out of me. I think it was on the show. We were talking about how I went about like the sales and marketing process, and I've just been these pitch slaps that people do on LinkedIn and all these other platforms, and people are just not really looking to deal with people. They're looking to just, sell to the company, and they're not realizing that there's a person behind the keys and that they should hunt the relationship of whether you win or lose or whether there's a fit. You should still be friends with the person, or you should still get to know that person a little bit. So that's really what it's all about. And that's what I've been doing for the 3+ years. I'm with Optessa, what I've been doing for the last year in the sales role. And it's been working.
It works. Okay. So we're going to dig in, and, this stage right here is set. This is all LinkedIn connections, John. We've been, like in COVID years, it was like decades ago, but we became fast friends a couple years ago, just pure networking, coming together. Damon, you were running all of your jam sessions, kind of getting us through COVID. John came into the mix, and you've been a dear fast friend ever since. So let's just dive in, talk to the folks. Who and what is Optessa? What's going on at this fun company that you're at?
Yeah, so Optessa, we are an enterprise software solution looking to speak with manufacturers all over the world, looking to increase efficiencies in their operations. So at the end of the day, we want to help the manufacturers with what they can make, when and where to meet any of their business objectives. And that's really peel it all back. That's all we want to do at the core of it. And we've been doing this for over 20 years. We have commitments with customers for the next decade, which is fantastic. And again, it's going back to just the relationship building side of it and just being where the customers need us to be and what our customers need us to do. So that's really where we're at right now.
Well, I love it. Hey, we've got a couple more friends dropping notes hello here. So we've got Inger in the house. Inger,
Lots of
happy
people today.
Monday. Thank you for joining us. We've got Karen. Man, we got Damon. We've got to get Karen on the show. And
yes, we do.
Whitney's dropping comments again, guys. Drop your a big hello in the comment section. Connect with John. Nicole, what do you think about this little party that we're having about the easy button software solutions? It's overwhelming. It's daunting, challenging. What are your thoughts as far as hitting this easy button on software implementation?
Oh man, anytime you're going through any sort of digital transformation, right? It's a massive investment of time and resources typically, right? Even if you're partnering with a vendor. And so I'm excited to talk about this because I think Optessa really has committed themselves to trying to make that lift as easy as possible for the customer. And I think what's really great about Optessa and what they're offering is every manufacturing business has constraints, a lot of constraints, supply chain, your inventory, labor, so many constraints that you have to manage and figure out how are you going to put all these puzzle pieces together to make whatever widget that you're having to create, whether it's a car or, anything. There's so many constraints. And so I love the beauty of Optessa is just their ability to just very easily manage all of those constraints that a lot of these manufacturers just feel like are just out of their control. And they may not even be aware that they don't even know they have a problem or that there's a solution out there that can help them manage this better. And so I think that's what's really great about what John's company is doing is just helping these manufacturers be able to more efficiently manage these constraints. And especially with the implementation process that they have, whenever you're getting tech involved and everything, it feels like a massive lift. So I'm just really excited for John to talk about this easy button on how they can how you guys make it easy. So I guess my question for you, John, is, as you are working with your new client, your new customers, and they're having to implement this new software and really honestly take a look at their process and figure out how they're going to, move that process and have this software kind of understand all of the variables that go into creating production planning, right? What do you guys do? Can you just first walk us through what does that implementation process look like?
Yeah, no, it's definitely something, and we're going through it constantly with our customers. And I think the first step is really articulating the needs, right? We have to understand what we're there for and what we need from the customer. So we have to drive it, right? Because the customer doesn't know what they don't know. And we have to just ask the right questions to then get the data or get the inputs we need to then help with the implementation process itself. And that itself is a long conversation because, like I said, the customers, and you've mentioned it, are so complex and there's so many people involved from the IT, from the end users. And the other really big constraint that we're going to talk about in a little bit is these people also have a day-to-day job, and implementing software is the last thing they want to do. So so we meet them there, and we make sure we know that, and they know that as well, is that we're trying to be as easygoing as possible while also understanding that they also have other things to do on their day-to-day. And we've been, now that we're out of the the COVID piece of it, we've actually been going on site. This way we just make ourselves available, and we're not reliant on meetings happening or meetings being delayed by an hour and losing an entire day. Now we're in the offices where the implementations are happening or where the people are working out of. So we can really just be there for them when they're ready. So if it gets delayed 2 hours, fine. We're sitting in the conference room, or we're sitting off, or we're at the hotel still, right? So then we just come and meet them when they're ready, and then we go to work. So I think that's a big piece of it, is really making sure they know that we know that this is probably not the top of their list, even though they say it is, and making sure that we work together on the timelines and make sure we work together on getting the data we need.
I love that. So it sounds like at that first phase is really just making yourselves really accessible to them by being on site, by really understanding what their process looks like very deeply, so that you're eliminating as much as possible that friction of like not knowing or not having context, first of all.
Yeah,
Cool.
get that. And we get that foundation done. And then from that foundation layer, that's when all the questions start. That's when it'd be great if, or what if, we call that scope creep. Because once we start having the conversations and the pains really start coming out, now it's a matter of just holding things off a little bit. So, for example, we might be brought in by a customer that has an issue with inventory, right? They want to make sure they maximize the use of their inventory, whether it be finished good or raw. But then we would say, well, we can also layer in your labor. And they go, wait, you can actually take our shift patterns too? And it's like, hold on, we'll get there next. But it's a matter of like getting that foundation done, making sure we have what we need, and then growing from there, and keep that scope creep a little bit further behind, and make sure that we take things as they come and everyone stays focused on what's needed. So if we're there to talk about inventory, we have to exhaust all the channels, all the systems, all the data inputs, all the people around those inventory constraints before we start layering in other items or other departments.
I see. So it sounds like you take it a phased approach, and really you're kind of trying to tackle one constraint at a time. So we are working with inventory constraints first, and how are you going to build the system to manage that? And then you move on to labor, for example. And then how long does that process, like how long does your production scheduling implementation process start? How long does it take from start to finish on average, or how does it vary? Like what does that look like?
It definitely varies. So every customer, either watching this or everyone that's involved in these types of processes, want it 90 days, 3 months. We'll sign with you as long as you're in and out within 3 months and we're live. That has yet to happen because of issues that have come up from the customer side of things. So like I said, we're on site and we're there for a week and we don't get the dedicated time we need. We just lost a week, right? And that's just something that we're not mad about it. It's just fact is a fact. So to answer your question, we can say that we will be there and will support an aggressive timeline, 3 to 4 months. What usually will happen is that we're pushed out at least 6 months because seasonality, like I said, these people are already busy, vacation time and planning things. So we're dealing with our own constraints of rolling out our own software, right? So I think that's where, if you're not ready to dedicate at least 6 months of your dedicated resources, your people and the time and the facility, it's going to take even longer, right? So it's great to know that they want to be aggressive. We meet them with the aggressive side of things, but then we still are blown out 6 weeks or 6 months, if you will, there. But again, we have to get that foundation piece of it. We have to get as much data as we can and as much as we can during the conversations. This way we're not wasting anyone's time. This way we can move to the next phases of the implementation where we start actually delivering software to kind of look at.
And what are some of those data pieces that you need to know during that initial process? Like what are the data elements that you're capturing so that you can really make sure you're architecting the solution for them in the right way?
Yeah, so the bare minimum that we need to know your systems of record or your system of record. So that could be an ERP, it could be a spreadsheet, it could be some homegrown in-house system that's been in live use for years. So we have to understand where the bulk of the data is coming related to the problem we're looking to solve. So if it's related to, we'll stick with inventory, we need to make sure we understand where all those inventory numbers are currently and where they're going to be coming from once we have the implementation done. So some of our clients want to do manual, some want to do shared tables, or some want to do API and write directly to it. So we need to understand where all that data is coming from. And we also need to understand the capacities related to it and also the constraints or your business rules that you want to adhere to, or what's the whole purpose for the software. So if you say you want to make sure you pay attention to safety stock levels, or you want to make sure you use your partially finished goods before you tap into raw material, that's all stuff that comes out in the conversations.
Yeah. It is, the way you're approaching it too is really good. I mean, I've been part of more than one ERP implementation, and when you try to do them all at once, it's just a mess, man. It's just a mess, and you have to break it down and compartmentalize, like you said. We're gonna do inventory, get that working right. We're gonna work on the next step, get that working right, because trying to do it all at once, it's you just never get it done. Go ahead.
It comes out further down the line. Right?
Yeah,
if you're missing, it comes out later on anyway. So if you're not being fully transparent, or you're forgetting a system, what good is it? It's only the system and the implementation and the software is only as good as the inputs. So if you're missing 50%, then the quality is going to be 50% less than what it was, because you're not giving us everything we need. Right.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
Hey, a couple comments here. So we've got Ingor dropped, yes, John, it's no pit flat zone. Whitney says, Karen, hey, we're going to have to make that happen.
Yep.
And Paula's in the house today. So Paula, happy Monday. Again, guys, drop us a comment. Let us know that you're here. We're having a great conversation on how to hit the easy button. And John, what I love you're describing, I mean, this could be, we all live in a software world. We can't get by without software. So I love how you've broken it down. Meet the customer where they're at. Articulate your needs. This could be a software implementation. This could be ERP. This could be inventory. This could be a whole slew. But I just love how you're really tackling this. Just get a deep dive understanding of the customer and to go into that process. Nicole, man, you are on fire. I'm taking like tons of notes right here. Let's keep it going.
Yes. So, okay, you talked about sometimes there's delays that happen, right? And usually like some things happen on the customer side. I think that's one of the biggest things I think we should talk about is what are some of those common challenges that you're facing during implementation, that the client's facing, and how do you address those when they happen? Like if you were to say, here are the top 3 challenges we get time and time again during implementation, let's like list those out, and how do you tackle those to prevent that scope creep, to prevent the delays as much as you possibly can?
Yeah. So in no particular order. So I'm just going to go based on the top 3. So the biggest thing I think I mentioned earlier is the team involved in this implementation has a day job. Like they are not here to be at our beck and call. We have to maximize our time with them. So what we do is we make sure if we have, say, a 4-hour block, which I know sounds like a lot of time, which it is, it's a half a day for some of these, individuals involved. We make sure we tell them what we want to cover and also what we're not going to cover. This way we prepare them ahead of time. Again, we're the experts coming to the customer. So this is where our 20 plus years of knowledge of what we need for our solution comes to play. So if we say we need 4 hours, here's what's going to happen over the next 4 hours. And here's what's also not going to happen over the next 4 hours. So we lay that out with the customer. And sometimes we can even shorten the meeting. There may be internal resources that they can send us, or there might even be someone else that can answer those questions for us. So we have to be very clear around what we need and why we need it. The other piece is that we have to make sure we understand that things are going to go wrong when we're implementing the software, right? So there's going to be firefighting that's going to need to be done. We're going to see it firsthand what the problems are, and we have to make sure we can relay back what's happening to the customer through how we're viewing it. So again, if they're having problems with inventory, when we're there for a week or 2 weeks for the implementation, we might see a real case come up of when something might go wrong with a supplier, or something might go wrong with a machine, or something might go wrong with insert problem here. So we're going to be on the ground with them and see it firsthand. I think another thing with the implementation where it really goes wrong is that you try to do too much and nothing gets done, right? So there's the beauty of saying no to the customer. So you have to be able to tell them no. So if our project manager lays out an agenda for the meeting, we don't have time for you to say, but what if? No, we will take that into consideration for another meeting, but here are the steps we need to follow. So we have to be a little bit, I'm gonna say harsh, but we have to be a little more, we can't get to it, right? If it's 4 hours, here's what we're going to do. Here's the 4 topics. Anything outside of it, it's got to be delayed or it's got to be pushed to another meeting. So we have to make sure that we keep control over the whole situation.
Yeah, I love that because you're working with ops leaders, high level executives that are part of this, and time is so critical for them. They don't have time to beat around the bush. And so I love that you're really focused on making sure that you have a plan for them and that you're guiding them through it so that it's very clearly articulated what needs to happen.
Yeah. And like I said, we're there for a reason. We will see the problems firsthand, right? We will see it. We will live it. We will be a part of it. And again, that's part of what we need to understand. If there's like a data gap or there's something that goes wrong or something, so we can understand how the team reacts and who gets involved and how long it takes them.
Yeah. So the common challenges are just time, lack of resources is a big one, and how to manage that. Okay. Yeah. Any other challenges? What are the others?
Oh man. So the other challenge with the implementation process is, again, like I said, they try to do too much with what they have or what they need, and dedicating the time to the actual implementation itself. Right. I think the other piece of it is, again, not to badmouth the customers, like they don't want to show you all their cards, which I think is another issue that we have, is that we're not getting the full story until things really hit the fan, right? Because they don't want to show you how bad it is, but at the same time, we want to be there for them and establish that relationship, because we need to know how bad it is to truly fix it. Right? You don't get into an ERP and say, everything's just great. Everything's working. We're so good. We're there for a reason. Just lay it all out, because the end result is going to be dictated by what we do to set things up. So like I said, if you're holding something on a whiteboard or there's tribal knowledge sitting with some engineer somewhere, we need that as part of it. So we have to make sure we get that full picture from the client as well. This way we can then deliver the right solution and the right output based on what they're telling us.
Yeah. Oh, there's some good questions here, Kurt. Really good ones.
Yeah. So what I love there, John, a couple of things, just kind of recap is, communication is absolutely critical. And I know, like, from an e-commerce standpoint, what we found is like, and it's just purely out of inexperience or I hate to use the word ignorance, just, customers don't know what they don't know.
Yeah. And
even you come in as a subject matter expert on your software, but you don't know their processes the way that they know their processes. So it's like, that's where the missed expectations sometimes fall, is when there's just a misalignment there. And I don't want to say it's anybody's fault or non-fault. It's just like, how do we just, really try to prevent those things from slipping through the cracks? And lastly, what I absolutely love that you said is like, when is too much, too much? And as that subject matter expert, you're coming in where sometimes you have to be like the parent or the school teacher, where you've got to be a little bit firm and say, hey guys, this is a little too much right now. We just, that might be phase 2 or phase 3. Let's say laser focused to get into the end zone. Now, Damon, any comments on your
yeah, you hit one of them, is that just because the technology will do it doesn't mean you should do it. Right. You got to start, you got to crawl, walk, run, and it's getting the basics. And the second thing that we see a lot when we're automating stuff in e-commerce companies is because we don't do the automation, but we're working on the project, right? Is you don't know all the situations that are going to cause something to air out, not communicate back and forth, right? All these kind of things. So you might go on a Tuesday at 2:00 when our system updates this way, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
it just stops, it dies, right? For some reason, or spits out the wrong data, or for some reason after, 1,000 things. Or one of the things, if you get into high volume applications that we found, is like, if you do 1,000 of these in 10 minutes, it only processes 200 at a time. Well, that's a big problem. There's all these situational things that with you guys on site, you can see those and go, oh, this is what we got to change. We got to change. It's like the difference between getting an API description and then the API is actually working together. It's two different things.
Yeah.
So
Let's grab a few comments here. So, hey, John's in the house. John, you guys should definitely connect and get on a conversation. I utilize whiteboards like Quip, and Slack is great. Karen drops a comment or drops a question here. So let's hit this while we're at it. Thank you, Karen, for joining us here today.
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle the challenges of unclear or non-existent processes during implementation?
Simply, we leave them out. The software can only understand things that are digitized or things that can be sent to us or transferred back and forth at scale. Mm-hmm. So if there's something that, for example, we've had a couple customers that use time cards, like physical timing, stamp the time card to let you know when someone starts their shift. That we can't get that input into the software because that timestamp machine is not integrated with any system that's going to then talk to our solution. So the only way to really do it is we will backburner that, because that is something that we will not prioritize, because that's something that's going to take away from the other parts that are digitized and ready to rock and roll. But we will take that and say the solution will be enhanced future state based on time cards or based on labor timings in and out, if you will. So we have to be very clear about what we can get versus what we will get versus what we cannot get. And I think that's what comes out in the conversations when we look at the tech stack. So if we're working with a customer that has an ERP, a CRM, an MRP, spreadsheets, in-house systems, what lives where and what data is coming from where? And that's a big discussion. This way we understand where the inputs are, what we do have, and then also once we have that, then it's understanding, okay, which systems are tied to the problem that is the core of why we're here. And then we prioritize that system, to your point, Damon, to make sure if it's an API or a shared table or a manual piece, how do we get that data to talk to and be with our software to then look at that problem specifically? And then everything else trickles after that. So I think that's the whole piece of it is if it's unclear or non-existent, it's not a priority. It's a future state and we'll build and grow. It's a long commitment to work with us. It's a 3-year, commitment, which might sound like a lot, but if we're using 6 to 12 months just to implement, that's only 2 years working with the software. There's still training, there's still utilization, there's still getting and generating ROI. We will grow with you and mature with you. And we, again, will take the notes of what is the future state aspirations and work with the team.
I love that because in the spirit of hitting the easy button, you're simplifying this whole process. And like you said, meeting them where they are so that it's reducing anytime digital transformation is so overwhelming, it's reducing the overwhelm significantly for them. And so I really love that approach a lot. I think it really helps them to feel like, okay, sheesh, I don't have to have 10 billion things figured out. I just need to make sure the data that I do have gets into their hands. The process that is, set up and, documented and in place, that's what we need to work with. And then we can, visualize, move on to the next more complicated part of this process. So I love that. That's awesome.
Okay. I have to interject. We had multiple mic drop moments.
Mm-hmm.
And Nicole, thank you for recapping, but that was really a savor moment. So John, thank you for everybody out there. You have to go back and hit the rewind button and just kind of just savor what John just laid on us right there. Dude, that was just preach worthy. That was just phenomenal. So Damon,
well, it is because
the flavor of Aunt Barb's pie.
You gotta savor the flavor of that, right? Because you don't want guys like me in there when it's time to when you're thinking about what you can do, right? We need people like John that says we're here to build the house. We don't care about the swimming pool in the yard. Right. That comes later. And it's so important to do that because you'll go in there and there's people that like to talk about that stuff, and that's great. There's a time for it, but focusing on what you got to get done. And the reason why you're here today is so critical. And you guys giving people that is huge. Yeah.
That was fantastic. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That was strawberry rhubarb and pie on Sunday afternoon there, Damon.
Yeah.
That was, and Nicole's got the recipe from Aunt Barb as well. So
there we go.
Nicole, I had to get, there were just too many mic drops. We couldn't let that slip past. So take it away.
Yeah. So maybe just going along with that, it sounds to me like just Optessa, you guys are just so flexible, right? That's what I've seen in terms of you're going to meet them where they are, depending on whatever. Because Optessa is a very downstream solution, right? It's all, it's based on whatever existing ERP, CRM they already have in place, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds to me, and maybe talk about this a little bit, is whether they're working only with Excel spreadsheets or whether they're working with a whiteboard or whether they have a really advanced ERP, it sounds like Optessa's you guys are just going to come in and just meet them with whatever software that they're using. And how does the process differ depending on where they're at there? Do you know what I mean? Like if they're only using a whiteboard versus they have this complex ERP.
Yeah, they still have to articulate the problem, right? They can still tell us what the gaps are or where the gaps are or what they are aspiring to, right? So again, we meet you where you are and we get you where you want to be. That's really the end of the day. That's what we want to do for all of our customers. So if they're using in-house systems or they're using other software that just isn't supposed to be generating optimal plans and schedules, like we can be bold enough and say, you're doing it wrong. Here's how we need to go forward together. So we have to make sure we have enough data and we have a big enough problem with the customer for them to then utilize us, right? So if they don't have their customer orders, their constraints, or their capacities to where we can pull them into the software, we can't help you. Like that's the bare minimum. And there's other providers that ask for 3 or 4 times that. We try to peel it all the way back to just the bare minimum to generate that optimal plan and schedule, because we've noticed that those 3 bare minimums are also the end result of other solutions that say they can do optimal plans and schedules or advanced planning and scheduling for a customer. So if an ERP is how you're utilizing or to generate these plans and schedules, you're getting that our jump off point is your end result with them. So where they end and say we're doing everything we can for you is where we just get started. And we say that's just our jump off point and let's add on later on. So we'll meet you where you are. We'll work together to get you where you want to be. And you just have to be very open, honest, and transparent, and we'll get there together.
So let's talk about open, honest, and transparent, and just like, who do you recommend be involved in this implementation process from the company side? What, from a resources perspective, who in the company is ideally suited best to be in the room when implementing the software? What do you recommend there?
Anyone that wants to help. It really is. And I say that because we've been involved when the CEO was involved, the COO was involved, the CEO and COO didn't get along and they didn't understand, the different gaps of the two. So just like when you're selling to the companies, you deal with different priorities. And Damon, you probably know, you get different stories of what good looks like or where the gaps are or where the leaky bucket is. So you have to bring everyone in to really understand what really is going on or what the priorities are for the business, because everyone's going to look out for their gaps at the end of the day. The CEO wants to make sure there's a healthy bottom line. The CFO wants to spend the littlest amount of money. The COO wants to make sure his team's efficient. How do you get everyone together? And the answer is you do that. You get everyone together that's involved in the process. And we have an ideation session where we interview every single person and say, tell me what's going on. Tell me in your own words where we can improve. Tell us where you feel the gaps are. And then we get everyone together and we put on a whiteboard and we talk about it and we understand the priorities. We understand, just what is that, a Venn diagram where you look at and see where everyone's meeting and you meet them there. But we really need everyone to be open, like I said, transparent, to be involved. If the person that's having the problem isn't involved in the process, you're never going to solve the problem. If the person that's involved with the inventory isn't giving you all the numbers related to inventory or giving you the issues coming from suppliers, what good is it? We need to make sure we have everything we need to give you the solution that you deserve.
couple comments here. So John says, everyone, thank you for joining us today, John. Paula says therapy, anyone?
Sometimes.
So
yeah,
it is. It is.
Hey, we've got a great question from Karen here. Going on Nicole's comment about overwhelming the customer and meeting them where they are, what are some of your recommendations in dealing with or addressing their technical debt, again, so they don't get overwhelmed? Karen, thank you for joining us. Great question.
Yeah, that's an awesome question. So to answer it simply, we try to take as much of the lift off the customer as we can during this process. So if they tell us, say, for example, they have an ERP, or even if they have an Excel spreadsheet, we will let them know and coach them on how to get that data into our software, and we'll do it for them, right? So we just say, this is where your system of record is, or these are your data points. Okay, we'll get into the software. We'll do it manual right now. We'll make sure it just gets in there. We'll take that lift. So again, we have to meet them where they are. So if they're not mature from a digital standpoint, or if they are mature and the systems just aren't talking to each other, we will work to bridge those gaps and take on more of the lift for that customer on their behalf.
Love that.
Good answer. All right. How about Paula's? Let's see. You can't provide a proper solution if you don't know what the real problem is. Hey, how about dropping the mic on Paula right there, right? So that's a great one.
Absolutely.
I need to run, but wishing you all, Inger, thank you for joining us today.
Inger.
Happy Monday. We wish you a great week.
Inger,
so guys,
thanks.
If you're just joining us, if you came in over the top of the hour, we are with the one, the only John Buglino, the hunter of relationships, sales and marketing guru at Optessa. Nicole, let's keep this party rolling. What do you have? Man, she's like, show me up on questions, Damon. Damon's going to fire me after today.
Whatever. This is a really whatever. Well, okay, we'll keep going. You guys, this is a fun party, man. I love it. I'm having a great time.
It's not as good as roller skating.
I can never show you up. Are you kidding? You are the
is it as
not as good
as is it as good as roller skating?
Can't match roller skating. Can't match roller skating.
You gotta do that.
Or after I biffed it.
Even after, you got to laugh a lot about something like that.
Yeah,
it's true. It's true. You're not kidding. So yeah, no, let's keep this going. This is great. So what are, if I'm a business and I'm thinking about, investing in this software, and I'm like, man, I gotta get something better here than what we've got. How would a business be able to measure the success of their production scheduling implementation? Like, what are some, like, if you're going through the process, what does success look like for a company who's going down this path?
Yeah, success. I mean, we want to address the main problem, and there's successes before we even get started, right? We might even be able to help you with your business process gaps before we even implement the software. Like I said, asking the right questions during the first phase of our implementation to understand if data isn't where it needs to be, or there is not enough data, or the data quality just isn't there. It forces the business to make a change to grow and mature at that point of it. So at every phase, even before we get a sign, like a signature, a wet signature on that PO, we're helping and delivering back to the customer, because there's so much that comes out from having these conversations and meeting them at that vulnerable point of, okay, we understand that you're broken right now, but we'll work together to help that. And ultimately, we'll help you fix your problem with your inventory, fix the problems of what happens if something doesn't come on time from your supplier. We'll get there, but there'll be a lot of other little micro conversions and micro successes along the way that kind of come free of charge, right? They just will help you with your business process, your improvements, will align your team, increase the efficiencies. It's all going to come out over that span of that implementation. And each phase that we have and that we go over, there's going to be wins and there's going to be peaks and valleys, but there'll be wins and ways to grow throughout that process.
Yeah, I love it, because through the implementation, you are really forcing them to really be thoughtful and try to figure out how they can refine their processes. So that's, and from my experience, just doing any sort of digital e-commerce project with some of the clients that I've worked with, change is really a big, huge deal, especially for manufacturers. They are there's a lot of fear, I think, and they're used to doing things a certain way. And they say, this is how I've always done it.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
so, one of the things that, I got advice from Tony, our friend Tony Martinetti, who came on the show, and he gave some really great advice. He said in the show, I'll never forget, he said, you have to if anybody who's going through change, you need to preserve some of the kind of like the original part of whatever process, business or whatever. They need to take that with them into the change. So they're not like letting go completely of whatever they've built in the past. So maybe could you talk about that a little bit? Like, what do you do with these companies who maybe just like they're giving you a lot of resistance once you get into it, right? What they thought it was ends up being like a lot more involved than what they were expecting. How do you manage that? And what do you do to help preserve kind of like, I don't know, what they already have?
Well, one of the
drastic.
Yeah, well, one of the biggest misconceptions with our software is that they feel like we want to rip out what's there. So some of these clients, they're like, oh, so you're going to take away our ERP or you're going to take away our CRM. And it's like, no, we're going to complement what you're doing there. So we don't want to change how you go about your day-to-day. That's also why during the implementation, we understand where the data is coming from. This way we can mirror it in our software, because the last thing you need is another layer of a manual process or a process for you to learn something new. Yeah. So if you have a 25 character sales order, that's how it goes into our software. We're not going to say, oh, it's 25. We're going to make it 30 because we have to add our own little code to it. No, we're going to give you exactly what you need, because we want to make sure that you can hit the ground running as soon as possible. And we want to make sure, if you have, going back to earlier, if the data doesn't exist, we're not going to shoehorn it. We're not going to pretend it's there and say we'll get to it. If it's not there, we're just going to move past it. And we're going to develop the solution based on what we have, right? That's another piece of it as well, is that the companies will say, well, let's wait a little bit until we implement over here or do something over here or have this happen here, or we change all of our supplier numbers. No. Let's take it for what it is now and then add on later on, right? Because if you say, oh, we're changing a good one is labor management system, right? They're switching providers and now they're going to be able to, I don't know, digitize time cards. Well, we can, if you don't have that data now, or if it exists somewhere now where it's manual, let's just keep that where it is. And then as you implement that new software 6 months later, then we'll come back and we'll implement that and connect that and figure out how to leverage it right now or at that point. We don't have to delay something because you're in progress with things. Take it for what it is now and let's grow and extend together, because there's no reason we can't at that point. So we don't want to rip anything out. We just want to be very clear on what the expectations are and what we need, and then we can move forward together on this whole software journey that we'll go on.
It doesn't need to be perfect, right? It doesn't need to be
No,
perfect.
that's the last thing we need. That's the last thing we need.
That's what I was thinking too.
And that's why we phase it. Because the first phase we develop a rough cut. Second phase we develop a little bit more of a fine tune based on results of the UAT, right? All this data didn't pass in right, or this isn't here, or what happened to this. So we continue to fine tune until we get to the point where it's like everything's where it needs to be. We can go live and we full on implement and push the button and say, okay, you guys are now live. But if it takes 6 months for UAT, it takes 6 months for UAT. Like, we're not going to hold you to a firm date because we know things are going to change, right? And we know things are going to be modified and go on. Like, that's just what we have to do and be a part of. So we have to phase these things out. We have to have checks and balances in place. This way we're working at this together, because if we deliver something that's half, the results are going to be half, and then you're not going to be happy. So we have to make sure we get everything, dot the I's, cross the T's.
I love what I'm hearing, because I think it's just so true about any digital transformation is there's never really truly an end.
No.
It's always an evolution, right? And I think if customers go into this understanding that, like, when your e-commerce store launches, that's just the beginning, right? Or when you implement your production planning software, this is just the beginning. And so like the more people can shift and see like we're continually growing, evolving, there's never going to be an end goal. Maybe it takes less of the pressure off for them to feel like everything needs to be set up perfectly first in order to do this, because we got to get, what I mean? So that's really, I love that approach.
Here's a great example. We used to use these to talk. Just to talk. Just to talk. That's all we used them for. Just to talk.
True.
And if you didn't answer, you just had to call back later.
Right. Yeah. Right. Can you imagine if Steve Jobs was trying to get it to what it is now when he first started it way back when?
You're so right in this that, because each stage, when you start testing, you learn something. We didn't know this, but now we know this. Now we want to, and you just keep going, and it's a continual process. But that's why it's so cool, because you just keep building that foundation and get stronger and stronger.
Right.
Yeah. This is cool. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? I'm out of questions.
You're out of
no way.
I don't believe it.
Oh man, we got plenty, but I know we're coming into time. I want to be mindful of everybody's time as we start winding down. John, and you've covered a ton. Forgive me if this is kind of an overlap. Say if you took if you were to score an implementation on 1 to 10, 1 being we have a lot of improvement to go, 10 being like, man, this was a home run. What common characteristics? What are you seeing in your 10s? What do you see? Like what prep? You've mentioned communication, expectations, laser focus. Distract the squirrels and the shiny objects. So, from your experience, what do you see are like hardcore 10s where you're able to hit the ball out of the park?
Yeah, the biggest thing, I know I've said it a bunch already, is if the team dedicates the time to articulate where the data is and what they want the data to do, those are the 10s. If they just give us that time, it could be an hour, it could be 2 hours, it could be 4. We just need to have the time for them to articulate all that to us, and then we take it and run with it. Right. At the same time, like I said, we're the experts here. We're being brought in to solve a problem. We know what we need. The team just has to meet us at least halfway to give us the time and the ability to understand where that's coming from. And then we go off. Right. So we won't always need the C-suite involved. But when we deliver something to the C-suite, it's going to have checks and balances in it. It's going to have, we're going to be able to itemize out what we're going to show and also what we're going to show future state. Right. So the expectations will be set, and we will make sure the project plan goes off the way it needs to. And if there's bumps, we articulate that back to the business as well. Right. So, for example, if we're in implementation and one of the lead operations team members goes on vacation, we have to put that off to the side and say that's something that we're going to grow to. And here's the timeline for when that's going to be delivered. So the time and the resource on the customer side is paramount to everything that we need. When it's a 1, it's really rests on that. If we don't get the time and the energy and the resources from the team, we can't make this stuff up, right? It's based on your data. So if we don't have all the information, or you won't give us the information or the time to get us the information, what good is it at that point? And then everything in between. Right. Of course, there's going to be some that they have a lot of information, but they don't know really what it's saying. So the 10s, they have to be able to dedicate those time and resources to get us the data and help us understand what that data means. And then we go off and do what we need to do.
Yeah. And it seems like you've got to create a place of drop the mic. Let's take a moment to drop. Let's let John drop the mic. John, how many mic drops have we had this episode?
I don't know.
I'm up to I'm up to 13, but I got caught up in a few, so I might have missed some. But I'm around. I keep little marks on my notebook. I'm around 13 right now. So
you might be making this might be a record, John Buglino.
Could be.
I was going to ask a follow-up question to that, just around, it requires a lot of vulnerability and humility on the part of the customer, to be honest, because you're getting into their all the mess. This is like the mess of their business, and people have a lot of pride in what they've built and how they've built it. And so when you have someone coming in and saying and asking for all this information, I can see like there might be a lot of like ego, hesitation, all of that. Is there anything specifically that you do to help people feel safe to kind of share and let like be vulnerable? Because that does take some trust for people to be able to get there, I think, so they can get you the information that you need.
Yeah. You have to crack a few eggs to make an omelet, right? It's just what it is. Like you have to, you have to, right? And like I said, if you won't be transparent with us, then we will deliver a subpar solution. And then it's going to come out and it's going to be like one of those things where, like you bottle up like anger or fear, and then it just explodes out of nowhere and you're just uncontrollable. That's what happens when we don't get everything we need from the customer. And then we deliver a solution to go, well, that didn't answer any of the problems. And then we go back to all our notes and say, well, here's everything you gave us. And then then they just lose it. So to your point, we have to understand it. Like we're there for a reason, right? It's like going to a car dealership and going, I'm just going to use my bike. Just you're there. Like it's you're bringing us in to solve a problem. How grand the problem is, we've seen the gamut. Like I said, we're in for over 20 years. We're dealing with larger customers. Like you're not going to scare us. The volumes, the loss, we know. Like we already know. It's just a matter of when are you going to really fully realize it and actually see why you're having these problems.
Right.
So it's a safe space, right? Like I said, everything is documented. Everything is taken care of. And like I said, if they're not open in the beginning, they can't get mad at us at the end when we don't deliver what they wanted. So it has to be a two-way street at that point.
I love it. You started with transparency. You're transparent with them about what you need in order to be successful for them. You lay it out and say, look, we're here to help you be successful. So, yep, that's great. Transparency builds trust.
Absolutely. That's a one. There you go. There's your own mic drop.
I can't take credit for that. It's from Marcus Sheridan, and he coined that term. I heard it like 5 years ago, and I swear every day it's in my brain. Transparency builds trust. So Marcus Sheridan, wherever you are, I know you're not listening to this, but you're the master. Go ahead, Kurt.
Okay, so we need to start wrapping things up here. So, John, and bottom line, what it comes down to, expectations, communication, what's too much, transparency, like really you're selling one word in one word only, it's hope. It's like, why, Damon, we just had this conversation on your live stream last week, right? I'm hoping, why would a company let you into their business, right? It's hope that I'm going to be better than I was yesterday. I'm hoping that you're going to make my life easier. I'm hoping that I'm going to be more efficient. I'm hoping I'm going to look better to my boss. I'm hoping my company is going to be more profitable, and like Nicole just said, it's all about trust. Because if I don't trust, but it's like any relationship, it could be marriage, friend, your children, what have you, it boils down to communication. So it's all about the hunting relationships. And we are with the hunting relationship master. We've got Paula dropping a comment here about relationships. And so, guys, let's wind down to this. I do have one last question, John, before I let you go. I would be really disappointed myself, Damon, if I didn't ask this question. John Buglino, big Mets fan, if I'm not mistaken. Do I have that correct?
Yes, you're correct.
Oh, Mets and Yankees fan.
Watched the game last night.
Bottom of the ninth. Guys on second base. Coach, manager looks down the bench, sees John Buglino. Needs John Buglino to come up bottom of the ninth with 2 outs. Guy on second, and it's tie. It's a tie score, John Buglino, and you are the pinch hitter. You are walking up to the plate with 2 outs. Guy on second. You're in Citi Field in Queens, New York. When you walk up to the plate, what song is being played?
Oh my goodness.
Oh yes.
Oh man.
Love this question.
Great question.
What's the walk-up song for John Buglino?
You
Now,
don't have your
now,
walk-up music, dude?
We'll give him a second.
Oh,
We'll
my
give him a
goodness.
shocked.
It's like right
Nicole,
there.
This wasn't a question I was prepared
For
for.
Nicole,
Yeah.
what was the song that caused trouble last night? What was it, or over the weekend for you at the roller skating rink? What
Oh,
song
it was like Lenny Kravitz, I Belong to
Kravitz.
You.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So all right. So John, you're walking up to the plate. What's your walk up?
I'm gonna have to go back to my high school football days and go GNR. Welcome to the jungle.
Welcome to the welcome to the John Buglino jungle. Drop the mic.
That was our hype.
Yeah.
That was our hype music. That was. I mean, that thing was deafening.
Damon, we got to play that. We got to end the show with that song.
If you're Damon's
I'm
pulling
getting
it up. So if you're hunting relationships, all right, guys, we're gonna wind down. First off, thank you everybody.
That was a good one. You got to think about that. You're walking up, that's playing.
Oh,
You just say big
Dude,
things
like
are
you're
happening.
crushing
There's not a
Line
lyric
drive.
in it. You don't even have the lyrics. Just the instrumental to start off.
Yeah,
That's it.
just at the beginning.
Just
That's
a
a good one.
just a little
Oh
splash.
my!
Second one. Now that you got me going, Motley
Ooh, the
Crue,
second.
Dr. Feelgood.
Dr.
Mm.
Feelgood. Okay.
Oh, I don't,
You know what?
do I know
And
that one?
Damon's
Nicole-
gonna pull it up.
Nicole, I don't know if you know, like he's got to go with the hair bands. I think he's doing it just for me, but
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
okay.
Another good one.
All right. Let's wrap up. Let's
All right.
wrap up. So everybody in the crowd, Karen, Paula, John, Inger was here today. Guys, everybody dropped
Yeah,
a
thanks,
comment.
everyone.
Whitney, thank you guys.
Yes, thank you,
deeply
everyone.
Always
Thank
appreciate
you.
you for joining us. Thank you. We wish everybody a happy Monday. Nicole, thank you for joining us on stage today. It's always an honor and privilege. And I know, Damon, you're sneaking away this week. And so I've got Nicole on Friday as well.
That's awesome.
As we're interviewing Ira Bowman, the Mr. Ira Bowman. So, all right, John Buglino, thank you. Where
Thank
can
you.
everybody reach out to you? Here on LinkedIn? If folks are catching you on Twitter, on YouTube, just share with everybody, where can they find you? Where's the easiest way to connect with John Buglino and the team at Optessa?
Yeah, definitely on LinkedIn. I answer all the DMs, even the pitch slaps. But yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn, and then Optessa, we're very active on LinkedIn and YouTube. So definitely give us a subscribe, check out the content. And yeah, let's start a conversation.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Hey, and Whitney says, hey, excellent, Joyce, and a man after my own heart, and says, hey, have a great to be with y'all. Have a wonderful week. Whitney, we wish everybody out there a wonderful week. Guys, God bless. Damon, thank you, my brother. Appreciate it. You guys have a great Memorial Day.
Thanks, everyone.
And guess what? Next week, Damon and I will be coming to you from the 49th state. We're coming to you live from Alaska. So we will see you guys there. So
Nice.
have a great day. God bless you. And thank you. Hang out with us for 1 second, John. And we'll see you guys soon.